Writers use active voice to make their writing strong, clear, and direct. Let's practice making sure that every sentence in our writing is in active voice. Make sure you have your student practice sheet out in front of you because you'll need it throughout this lesson. Let's review. In active voice, the subject is doing the action in the sentence. Let's look at an example. Every afternoon, Miguel eats a piece of cheese. Miguel is our subject because he is doing the verb eats. Because the subject here is doing the action, this sentence is in active voice. In passive voice, the subject is receiving the action. In other words, we say that the verb is being done by someone or something. Another clue that will help us find passive voice is a by phrase. Many passive sentences will say that the verb is done by the subject. This sentence is written in passive voice. Every afternoon, a piece of cheese is eaten by Miguel. Notice that our subject, Miguel, is receiving the action. This sentence also contains that by phrase. The cheese is eaten by Miguel. In general, we try to use active voice as much as possible in our writing. Active voice makes our writing stronger, clearer, and more direct. There are a couple of times when passive voice is appropriate, such as when you don't know who or what is doing the action, or if the subject isn't important. But in general, unless you are using passive voice purposely for one of these reasons, it's a good idea to stick with active voice. In order to determine if a sentence is written in passive or active voice, you want to ask yourself, is someone or something doing the action or receiving the action? If the subject is doing the action, then you know that the sentence is in active voice. If the subject is receiving the action, or you don't find the subject at all in the sentence, then that sentence is most likely in passive voice. Give it a try. 2 of these sentences use active voice, and 2 use passive voice. Circle the 2 sentences that use active voice. Press pause while you work, and press play when you're ready to move on. You should have found that the first and last sentences are in active voice. The subjects come before the verbs. In the second and third sentences, the subjects are receiving the action, so they are in passive voice. This is a draft of an informational paragraph that I've been working on. Pause the video to read the paragraph. As you read, see if you notice any sentences that use passive voice. Press play when you're ready to move on. You probably noticed that there are a few places in this draft where I've used passive voice instead of active. What we want to do is change a few things around so that the whole paragraph is written in active voice. We're going to start by looking at the first 2 sentences. The first thing that I want to do is find all of the verbs in a sentence. After that, I want to identify the subject that goes with each verb and ask myself, is this subject doing or receiving the action? So I'm going to begin by circling the verbs here in the first sentence, did know and is. Now I just have to find the subject for each of these verbs. Well, the subject for did know is you. The order of this sentence is a little funny because it's a question, but the subject, you, is doing the action here. Next we have city is. So again, the subject, city, is being the verb is. So this first sentence is in active voice. Now let's look at our second sentence. This time I want you to find the verbs. Pause the video and circle all 3 verbs in the sentence. 2 of them you'll find work together in a verb phrase. Press play when you're ready to move on. You should have circled began and was founded. Again, we need to ask ourselves now, are the subjects here doing or receiving the action? Well, the subject of the verb began is Georgia. Georgia is doing the action, so this is active. I think I see a problem here with this next clause. Savannah was founded. Who founded it? The answer is General James Oglethorpe, but in this sentence, it looks like he is the one receiving the action. I also notice a by phrase. So this part of the sentence is actually written in passive voice. Luckily, this is an easy fix. All we need to do here is get rid of this by statement and rewrite the sentence, eliminating the phrase beginning with by and making sure that that subject is doing the verb. So here I'm actually going to move General James Oglethorpe to the subject spot in the sentence. That usually means that we move it so that it comes before the verb. So let's rewrite the sentence like this. The colony of Georgia actually began in 1733 when General James Oglethorpe founded Savannah. Alright, we're almost done. Let's try it again with the next two sentences. Again, remember that we want to first look for the verbs, then ask ourselves whether the subjects are doing or receiving the action, and if we do notice passive voice, we want to fix it by getting rid of the by phrase and making sure the subject is doing the verb. This time, see if you can recognize the passive voice on your own. Which sentence or part of a sentence contains passive voice? Circle the part of the sentence containing passive voice. Pause the video while you work and press play when you're ready to continue. You should have found that C contains passive voice. Here, I said that a relationship was established by the settlers and the native peoples. The subject, here, the settlers and the native peoples, is receiving the action. You might have also noticed that this clause contained a by statement. So now I'm on to step 3. To correct this mistake, I want to move the subject before the verb. So I'm going to rewrite it like this. The settlers and native peoples established a peaceful relationship. Let's practice one more time. This time, I want you to identify the problematic part of the sentence and fix it on your own. Remember the steps we're following here. Which part of the sentences on your screen are written in passive voice? Circle your answer. Then rewrite the sentence or part of the sentence you circled using active voice. Pause the video while you work and press play when you're ready to move on. You should have found that A uses passive voice. The action, word discovered, is being received by the subject, farmers. We also have a by phrase here with by farmers. So your rewrite might look something like this. Farmers discovered the climate and soil. In this version, our subject, farmers, is doing the action, discovered. Now take a look at our revised draft. We've now changed passive voice into active voice. Pause the video to read the revised draft and press play when you finish. Now it's your turn to give it a try on your own. Read the informational paragraph on your practice sheet and revise it based on what you learned in this lesson. Pause the video while you work and press play when you finish. Now look at your own writing and change any sentences that are written in passive voice into active voice. Now you know that writers use active voice to make their writing strong, clear, and direct. This will make our writing much more precise.